Hello and welcome to Investing Confidential. So all last week, all we heard about was the BRICS, okay, the big BRICS meeting, the US dollar, and how these BRICS were going to take over. Well, look, I mean, I live the BRICS, okay, as you guys would know from my past videos and video that I talked about my past. I was a portfolio manager. I invested in all these countries. Okay, so I know them intimately well. I understand the BRICS. I'm going to talk to you about what the BRICS are, what this whole controversy is, and whether it's a disaster or an opportunity. Okay, from an investment standpoint. So let's begin. Let's talk about what are the BRICS. The BRICS is really an acronym. Okay, that was invented by a guy from Goldman Sachs. Okay, actually, he was not a talking head. This guy was an asset manager like myself. Okay, so he's a obviously very senior guy. And in 2001, he was talking about the future, right? Thinking about, okay, long term, and this is, again, a very long term theme. What countries are going to, if you invest your money, where are you going to outperform? Where are you going to get the most growth? And he came up with this term BRICS. Okay, originally it was Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Okay? That was the BRICS. Okay, with a little S on the back of it. The BRIC countries: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And it made sense. It was obviously he analyzed the impact of China coming into the World Trade Organization and the potential growth, et cetera. This guy, by the way, was based in Hong Kong. And at the time, it was interesting analysis of these four, at the time, large countries. Okay, they represented, a fast growth, large percentage of the overall GDP of the world. And the idea was that an investment theme can make a lot of money by investing long term. Okay, that's the reality. And from 2001 to 2010, okay, the emerging markets indexes outperformed the US. Plain and simple. Obviously, financial crisis was a big reason for that. But the bottom line is, if you had put your money in BRICS, okay, in those four countries, in the indexes, in, let's say, 2002, 2003, and you wrote it up to 2008, 9, 10, you'd outperform the US. End of story. Okay, that's the beginning of the BRICS. So then in 2010, South Africa wanted to join. Before that, in 2006, these countries had a meeting. Now remember, this is something that a Goldman Sachs guy drew up as an investment theme. All of a sudden, they said, "Hey, let's create a BRICS. Let's create a real BRICS," which was kind of ridiculous. And then they did. And then they started having annual meetings. They were nothing done meetings, worthless meetings. And then in 2010, South Africa says, "Hey, I want to join." And they let them in. So now, and really nothing has happened since then. Okay, from 2010 till last week, it's just been some type of investment theme. Okay, these countries tried to they did formalize something, but it was really an investment theme. So what happened last week? They had a meeting in South Africa. By the way, just to give you some perspective, from 2001 to 2023, okay, let's go through the BRICS. Brazil, disaster. Okay, and they had their president thrown in jail, impeachment, all this great. The market has been a disaster. Russia, do I have to say anymore? Russia is a disaster. Okay, India has performed, probably the only BRIC that has performed extremely well from 2001 to today. Okay, big population, but it's an internal market. Okay, the foreigners have very little to do with the growth of India. It's a very internal market. And then finally, China, obviously big move from the WTO up until, let's say, 10 years ago or 7 years ago, when Xi Jinping came in and destroyed the economy. But okay, it was strong and now it's down. And then South Africa, a complete mess. Politically, economically, a mess. Shouldn't even be in this conversation. So that's what we have today. So last week, these guys got together in South Africa and they decided, hey, we want to talk about forming our own currency, trading with each other, and we want to bring in some new guys, okay? And who do they want to bring in? Well, first, big name, Saudi Arabia, very impressive. And they want to bring in the UAE. Not so impressive. Then they want to bring in Egypt, Algeria, Argentina, Mexico, and Nigeria. I mean, folks, and then they even talked about Venezuela at one point. This is a joke. This whole BRICS conglomeration, this loose conglomeration of countries, it's like OPEC, and even worse than OPEC. It doesn't have much power. It doesn't have any power. These guys can talk all they want, but they have no leverage. Okay, if they bring in Saudi Arabia, maybe they'll have leverage, but there's no leverage. Again, it continues to be an investment theme. It's not something to worry about in terms of the U.S. dollar strength. Look, I think the U.S. dollar is doomed, but it's an internal problem, not an external problem. U.S. dollar problem is out of control government spending, massive debt levels. That's the U.S. dollar. Okay, it has nothing to do with these BRIC idiots. Okay, and you can see that these guys really take themselves seriously in this BRICS summit. Okay, but the reality is China, which is really the only country that really matters in the BRICS because of the external as well as internal market. I mean, they want to dominate the BRICS, but I mean, China's got his own problems. China's got big internal problems. And here's Xi Jinping. This is why I say this guy's a dead man walking. He's a joke. Okay, it's a joke. And this enlargement is even more of a joke. Okay, it's a big joke, and it's if it happens, it's not going to matter. So, as far as buying gold and all these things because of this, no, that's not the reason to buy gold. That's not the reason to invest in the BRICS because of this. If you want to invest in the BRICS, it's because you believe that the markets are cheap and that you're going to get good growth. Okay, and here we have China exports. Okay, so China obviously wants this expansion because I can see here the blue line is export to these, well, they say Belt and Road Initiative, but the Belt and Road really is other emerging countries. And by the way, as I spoke about months ago, the Belt and Road is bankrupt. Okay, China lent billions, it's bankrupt. And then the exports, the red line is the exports to the developing world, the United States, Europe, and Japan, cranking down, and they're exporting to countries. By the way, they have to finance all those exports, and the countries don't pay them back. So China is a disaster, folks, an absolute disaster when it comes to this. And then you look at what has happened with this stimulus. China has tried to stimulate the real estate market. Didn't work. Hasn't worked. Okay, Xi Jinping, he's destroyed the real estate market and basically destroyed the economy with it. Now they're trying to stimulate the stock market. Okay, the rallies don't last. Okay, they tried to do it last week, a number of different times. The last one they tried to do was last night, Sunday. They had a big rally up 5%, and it faded down to 1%. So these stimulus is not working. Okay, this is a last gasp from a failing leader. This guy is not going to last, despite what everyone says. He's not going to last. So let's look at the investment theme. Okay, so BRICS are synonymous with commodities. Okay, and as you hear, let's look at indexes. This is the CRB. The CRB is in the red below, and then the blue line is the S&P. Okay, so as you can see, over a 10-year period, invested in commodities has been a disaster. End of story. In fact, I can go back almost 20 years and show you the same S&P continuing to outperform the CRB. But things are changing. Okay, as I told you, we are going to, not right now, but we're going to begin a long period of dollar weakness, not because of anything else except internal problems with the U.S. government, with its debts, with its politics, whatever it is. It's coming. Okay, and then you look at, again, the investment theme here. This is emerging market index, 10 years versus the S&P, same as the CRB, massive underperformance. But going forward, this is where you have to be. Okay, and has nothing to do with BRICS. Okay, BRICS is irrelevant. Has to do with picking the right countries. Obviously, you don't want to pick China. And being involved with growth. Okay, this is where the growth comes from. And this is where the growth always going to come from. And you have to time it right. These are not long-term investments. They're 3 to 5 year investments. They're great. When they run, they really run hard versus the US. And we're going to see this. So you see this underperformance by emerging markets, the EEM index. This is what you want to be positioning. You want to obviously wait a little bit here because we've got still the Fed is holding rates high, and that's going to be quite some time. But eventually they're going to hit the economy. And by the way, I just want to mention one thing. This recession, everyone's saying poo-poo, the recession's not going to happen. It's going to happen. It's beginning now, this month, next month. Okay? It is inevitable. Inevitable. Yield curve, the inverted yield curve, it's always right. The bond market is right. Why do you think the bond yields are so high? Because of the risk. The risk. Why were bond yields so low, artificially low? There wasn't any risk because the government was just pumping money into the economy. So there's no risk. Now, big risk. That's why bond yields will stay higher for longer, as we said before. Big risk. The economy is going to crank down. That's inevitable. And when it does, the dollar will begin to weaken. And this is when commodities and these emerging market indexes are going to start to really run. So that's the BRICS. Not something to worry about in the short term. It's really an investment opportunity. So investors, be careful out there.